Thank you everyone. It's great to be back here at a Resource Rising Stars gig. Last time I showed this deck was up in the Gold Coast in September, and we've changed the company a little bit since then, but a little bit of a different feel to this one. This is purely exploration. We love exploration in the Western Australian goldfields, and we think we're terrific value because we've got a high cash backing and a very small EV. Since I last presented, we've added copper to the equation, and I'd like to talk you through some of the aspects of that copper project that we picked up. That's a photo of our preferred operating environment. In fact, our ground is a lot like Ian's ground, who just presented. It runs along Salt Lake country. There's nothing to see until you drill holes. So we are unashamedly the first people into areas that are transported sand and soil profiles, and there's no data points to work with. And that gives us maximum opportunity to find something worth finding. And in this gold marketplace, there is a ready demand for new discoveries, as we've seen. We've also picked up this copper gold project. I'll talk about that in some detail, but it's a very handy land bank. There's a lot of metal in the ground. We've paid very little for it. We've got $14.2 million as of December, probably in the $13 million range today, and we're very cautious with how we spend our money. We select our targets carefully, we drill them with low-cost exploration techniques, and we move through. Simple capital structure, 100 million shares or so out there. We trade about 18 cents or so, 14 of which is cash, so we run at a low EV, so there's plenty of leverage if we get onto something, and on any given day we've got results pending. So, we've always got a ball in the air on this, and hopefully, it breaks the right way and goes through the goals. A very small and well-controlled board and institutional registry. We've got a hand-select group of major shareholders and some high net worth guys that everyone knows and recognises in the business. And they're backing the team to just do the right things. So I back it up if I can. Yep. It was unashamedly technical. We've got 3 geologists and a mining engineer. He spent time in the capital markets and understands broker speak. And the idea of having a board that's so loaded with skills is that when we see a business development opportunity, we can oftentimes find someone in the board that's seen it before, and we can give a really fast yes-no decision-making process, and some of that skill leads us to execute deals. On the deal side, we're pretty active. We had a gold deposit last year that we had sort of reached its maximum capacity to grow at sensible spend. We sold it to Northern Star for $10 million, put that money back into Treasury. We used some of it to buy this copper gold project. We explore with the rest. We've done little transactions on other tenure in our neighbourhood. So we keep rolling the ground over. And in terms of a business and a long-term plan, the idea is to find something that's valuable, take it to a point where we've added as much value as we can, and then find someone else to mine it. That's our sweet spot. We've done it 5 times as a board, and some of these transactions have been from very low numbers to very high numbers. So it's a good process if you can do it. It's a game of perseverance. Love the Western Australian goldfields. It's a good place to be. There's no end of discoveries over the journey out here. We've got a big gold footprint around the Yarrie project, sitting between Kalgoorlie and Laverton. That's where most of our news flow comes from, and the new acquisition is up in the northwest of the goldfields near Meekatharra, and I'll talk to that. So this slide, if you bear with me for a second, it continues on from the slide that Ian showed. We're just to the southeast. Essentially, there's the Salt Lakes and the transported terrain that we know and love. Most of the Salt Lake country and the dark shapes in that photograph have transported profiles, so there's very little information until you drill holes. We've got 150 kilometres of sort of carefully selected ground along that belt, and ring-fenced by operations. So we've got the Carosue Well mill of Northern Star to the south of us. Anglo's got a huge operation to the north at Sunrise Dam. Apollo Hill that we just heard from is in the northwest corner. And importantly for me, one of my last discoveries was at Rebecca down in the southeast corner of that page, and that was sold to Ramelius. So it's an area that I'm pretty familiar with. Why is there so much operations in gold around here? So there's two big structural zones that have got names, and there's a lot of gold along them, and we can demonstrate that by all those yellow dots. And they're gold workings, or they're places where people have found deposits. Our business model is to track that knowledge through transport into our tenements and then put the first lines of information. Swapping to the aeromagnetic imagery there and dropping on some 2 advanced prospects that we're taking an RC rig to in the coming month, and a pile of first principles greenfield targets that we want to get the air core rig into. And of those, we move through them, and so those targets keep moving around as we test them. But there's one that's come in just recently called Edudina Range, between Bluetooth and Statesman as well, and I'll show you that now. So Edudina Range is first principle stuff. We're following mineralisation where it daylights to the south of us into a 4 kilometre long trend in the middle of the package, which is that red loop in the middle of the map there. Now, in that 4 kilometres, there's no information whatsoever. We took our first line of drilling into this area late last year, and at the end of one of those initial holes with an air core rig, we hit 2 metres at 3 grams per tonne at end of hole in a really nice looking deformed and iron-stained quartz-veined rock. And as a first test in the middle of nowhere, that's exactly what you want to see. We've just recently come back and put a second hole behind that hit 10 metres at a gram in exactly the same material, and we've subsequently brought the rig back in again, straddled that first line at 100 metre line spacing, and then stepped a couple of 100 metres north and south of all of the knowledge. So we've got 800 metres of drilling, of strike drilling at the assay lab now, and we'll know in a couple of weeks' time where we stand on this. But that if we get gold in that program, then we can call this, a discovery and a work in progress, and we'll bring the RC rig in. So that's just an example of the sort of work we do and why we like doing it, because that can be anything. It starts off small, oftentimes they end up large. On the other end of the scale, there's prospects all over this package that are worth drilling today with RC rigs, and oftentimes the last work they got was in the 80s or 90s. It's a matter of compiling the information and seeing where the value can be added. At Statesman as well, it's about a kilometre long trend of little gold workings sitting in outcrop, with zones between 10 and 20 metre wide in around about the 1 gram mineralisation in existing drilling. We see plenty of opportunity to build panels of mineralised rock at that sort of geometry. It's dead straight, so it's very easy to imagine resources emerging here. We'll have a rig coming in the end of the month. It's going to put 20 or 25 holes into this panel of rock and build what would be the first stage of resources. And likewise, at another prospect on the same trend but to the north, we late last year put an RC program for the first time into this one and got some really nice wide intercepts of oxide gold in folded, quite quartz-veined rock with some really nice alteration. Lots of opportunity to build on some wide zones, true width zones of gold mineralisation. So the rig will get to this middle of the next month. That's the gold story. That's the types of examples of what we do with the rigs as we work through the year. Up in the north of the gold fields, we've now gone into this a little skinny greenstone belt that time forgot. We purchased this copper gold opportunity because it came along. It came at a low cost and it came with a lot of metal. So there's 160,000 tonnes of copper and 130,000 ounces of gold at the minute, and we know we can make it bigger. It sits on a granted mining lease, It's in completely flat, featureless terrain, so it's got a sort of high doability factor. We see lots of opportunity to expand on what was a poorly understood system. It was found by mistake by gold explorers, and it's had no geological ownership, so we're the guys that are going to try and pull it together and make some sense of it. When you first look at it in plan view, there's a photo to the left and magnetics to the right there. Immediately it's obvious that the colour, which is in this case, it's copper at 1%, it's open to the north, it's open to the south, it hasn't even got any edges. There's just not enough drilling in the system. That becomes really apparent when you open up the data set and look at it in 3D. Now normally when we see these things, you open up data and there's a pile of drill holes all around it with nothing in it. This system, for some reason, has only got 1 or 2 holes that ever found the edges. So holes start in mineralisation, they finish in mineralisation. It's 150 odd metres wide at surface, and it's quite clearly underdone. It's quite unusual to see, in the business development world, something that no one's really found the edges of. So we call it unconstrained. It's really exciting. What's interesting amongst the system, it's low grade admittedly, but internally there's quite long zones of good grade. So that core there's 12 or so metres at well north of 1% copper and decent grades gold, and we see this down a lot of these drill holes, but no one's worked out the periodicity or how these things join together. We do know the deepest holes are the best holes, so it's quite clearly open at depth, and the deepest holes are shallow holes, so it's going to be worth drilling at depth. So obviously lots of potential to add scale. A couple of cross sections. That's the block model as we know it. It's 150 metres wide on those drill sections. The holes start in the host rock and they finish in the host rock. And internal to those mineralised zones, there's a lot of much higher grade than the model. It's a question of can we build a big footprint with a component of higher grade that we can take to something commercial in the future. We've given ourselves plenty of time to understand the system, so we're not charging in here, but we've got some smart geologists working on it now to inform us where the best place to do some first work in here, and we really want to find where the sweet spot might be in the host rock. As I said, it's the deepest holes are the best ones. That's the long section looking towards the west, so that's looking at the resource model. It's drilled mostly at around about the 200 metre depth range. But when you've got something that's 150 metres wide, you can justify drilling it much deeper than that, more aggressively. So it's unusual, very happy to own it. It cost us $1 million in cash and some script, but we'll be working on this one. Probably towards the end of the year, we'll start to get a feel for where we put the first drilling. So I'll leave you with this. This is our last slide for today, but have a look on our website and have a look at the deck, because there's a lot more information, of course, but we'll be delivering hopefully good gold results to the Aircore program in coming weeks. If that comes in, we'll be drilling RC, and we'll be drilling hard. We've got the financial capacity to do that. We're bringing RC drilling to 2 advanced gold projects, and we know there's results coming there. The targeting work of all of that big footprint looking for the next discoveries, that continues on, and we aircore drill as we go through those. And then by the end of the year, hopefully we'll have a reason to really open up the books on the copper gold play. So I look forward to catching up again and informing at that point. Thank you.